these conversations go all over the place because our emotions are all over the place. Our thoughts are all over the place, and so are our interests because we're just trying to find things to remind us that we're human, that our lives matter, that our lives are filled with meaning and with purpose. And a lot of us are like really over the bullshit of doing things that we know are not aligned to why we're here. Because we're reminded of like how tragically short that life is. My really good friend who passed away last month had made this short film, and she had a stage 4 cancer for like 3 years, was 37, teacher, dancer, one of the best dancers I've ever seen. And the film that she has called The Road to Osetura, like a 3-minute film, like deeply immersed in her spiritual practice and a prayer for like her own healing and rejuvenation. And the subtitle of it is a prayer is not a prayer unless it's said out loud. And I'm thinking a lot about the ways in which we're speaking the affirmations and prayers of the life that we wish to live, which are filled with like joy, with meaning, and with connection. And I think this is a time better than any to just give birth to those ideas into the lives that we want, rather than continue to succumb to this capitalist system or this hamster wheel of bullshit that happens on all of these screens that are just there begging for our attention, when they're the attention of those that we care for more, that are much closer to us. And I think the opportunities for those connections can outweigh any game made for people who watched A Purple Dinosaur as a child.
And that's the artist corner, prolific.
Don't get coronavirus in your heart.
What's Dewey?
It's the base.
LOSO__G.
DK, the engineer.
That boy.
This is Morpheus, and I'm back. Happy COVID, everybody.
Hey.
Yeah, and this is Pro Jones 22 on Mescal.
Mezcal.
But welcome back, yo. What y'all did to all this COVID?
Blanco.
AC, we're in AC, year 0 AC during COVID, so I guess we haven't hit AC yet.
Word. DC COVID?
Yeah.
Happy 2020, everybody.
Yo, 2020 is a motherfucker.
Such a mess.
2020 is terrible.
Shut the fuck up, man. This is disgusting.
Yeah.
Well, how is
meme
2020?
though?
Oh, my bad. What did you say?
Now, I saw this meme though. It's like, is it the year or is it white supremacy? Is it the year or is it patriarchy? Is it the year or the presidency? Is it the year or ...
It's the year. What's the commonality?
Death.
It's the year. What was happening in 2010 that has not happened in 2020?
Who died in 2010?
I didn't say someone died. I said what happened in 2010 that hasn't happened in 2020.
9/11. No, that was 2001. My bad.
Yeah, 10 years
What?
old.
Are you okay?
2010 is when I graduated, so that must have been like
That was Obama.
like senior year. Your senior year. Yeah, we still had Obama.
Oh, breezy.
Obama.
The Obama, and we about to have Trump again for another 4 years.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not affirming that shit. Absolutely the fuck not.
I mean, I don't know.
I'm not accepting that. Listen, last time I wasn't sure of where I would move to. I'm quite sure. I'm like, you know what? Let me put in this Fulbright application. I'm out. See y'all suckers in 4 years.
Hey, man.
It's a
Get out while
toss-up,
you
right?
can.
But it is a toss-up. I mean, y'all are right. It could potentially be because the country, he has successfully split the country up, like chopped it up, like his personal burger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and who's to say he's going to leave office if he loses? Like the Constitution assumes that the person who loses will actually, like, like, oh, I lost. I'm going to leave now.
That's true.
He'll sign an executive order declaring himself president.
Or he'll just have the white supremacist militias come into D.C. and be there with all the guns and shit and be like, I'm not going.
Voter fraud. And then he's going to show all the mailboxes and ditches. Did y'all see that shit where he said to some of the other people, to some other chick that works in the White House, that apparently the great leader of North Korea winked at her? And then Donald Trump was like, yo, go take one for the team.
Oh,
No, I didn't see it, but also
that's pretty funny.
I don't watch horror movies.
You know, this is a real life horror movie side. But it was funny. I was reading the comments and it was like, some people were like, you can't really be taking him serious. And some people are like, no, he's serious. And the thing is, I don't know whether he's serious or not because I feel like he's a little serious when he said that shit.
Well, that's why he's so good at the game. Keeps you guessing. And because you're so invested in that game, he can put in whatever he wants. You still keep talking about him.
You keep watching.
Yeah.
It's the best
He's a
reality
confidence
show in
man.
4 years. 4 years.
I watched him enough when he was on reality TV. I don't watch him now. The
Why
dude starts
did you do
talking
that to
about him
yourself? Why did you do
because
that?
Little John was on the fucking Apprentice and it was entertaining as shit.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Oh boy.
I remember that shit.
Yeah, man. I was okay with Trump when he was just a reality TV star that didn't cross over into politics in real life.
Well, they
And now
voted for him.
he's the
yeah.
ultimate crossover. He's Deadpool. He's the Deadpool of like rich people. He just crossed over. Now
Deadpool
he's
has
screwing us.
redeeming qualities. Let's not do that to Deadpool. That's not fair to Deadpool, man. Deadpool is a slightly psychotic pansexual who is funny and entertaining.
And does not cross over to politics.
Nope.
Stays in his lane. Mm-mm.
Man, that Trump shit is crazy.
Yeah, I really don't think you. Well, why don't you think he's gonna dip if he loses, or you don't think he will?
What about him says anything about being a graceful loser, particularly if he has power and military and whatever else at his disposal? He will drag that shit out as long as possible.
Yeah, this new book that came out from Melania's ex-aide or former bestie or whatever you want to call it. It was written that they're grooming Ivanka to run because the promise that Trump is making is there will always be a Trump in the White House after his term.
Yeah.
So he may go, but he's not going to leave.
Yo, that'd be crazy.
Yeah. I think that's a long shot. Like even by that's a long shot.
Hey, man. You never know. Oh, Michelle has a podcast. Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
She might use that
Really?
platform to. Yeah, she has a
What
podcast.
did you talk about? Like what is the
I don't give
structure?
a. I don't give a fuck. If it's not our podcast, I don't care what kind of podcast it is.
Oh
You
yeah.
don't say
right.
that shit. Hit her up, bro.
Nah,
Hit her up.
No. From what I heard, the first episode she features Barack Obama himself.
Oh, cheater.
And
Cheat code.
Right. Cheat code.
Cheat code. $1 million. Cheat code.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a very safe podcast. It's safe.
Yeah,
safe
it's
podcast.
Makes sense.
talking really about, the same causes that she has, the children, healthy eating, mental health during the pandemic. I think she revealed that she was supposedly she had slight depression. I mean, everyone just really felt isolated. Like you may be together, but you're not. But just that human contact without a screen is so different. It's a healing source. And if you don't have that, if you're just around the same people, you age tremendously. Tremendously. Like shrivel like a raisin for some.
I wonder how
Yeah.
this whole COVID thing is gonna affect. Like, I'm thinking about like kids younger kids specifically, the ones that like in pre-K and stuff like that, or that would have been going to some type of program like that. Because I know my nephew, that he's a single, he's an only child, so that was like the only way that he can go out there and like interact with people. And I even noticed like a huge difference between him and my other cousin that doesn't go to a program like that, but they have a sister, they have a sibling. Like
Right.
my nephew's definitely a lot, friendlier and stuff like that. But that, mainly because he's around a lot of other kids and a lot of other people. So that's like, he's been developing that. But now he's by himself. And now, I just imagine like a lot of other kids are in that situation and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, the first few years of life is like super important for socialization and things of that nature. So it'll be interesting how it manifests. Probably not going to be good.
More
It's
likely.
probably not gonna be good.
Most likely no.
Serial killer.
But
alert.
then, how can they recover? How could that difference actually make them better, or worse, for their own generation? Because they're so young, and their first interaction with the outside world, aside from their
Through a
families, is a screen.
Yeah.
And that's not even the families giving them the screen; it's society giving them the screen. Because your alternative is death, screen or death.
It's like Wally.
Oh yeah, that's where you went.
Another thing that somebody brought up is that, like, even though we're in COVID and stuff like that, and whatever, people, everybody's supposed to be separate. That specifically, education is gonna affect more like the poor population a lot more, because like people in upper middle and upper class, whatever, they have the resources to be able to continue that education at home and provide like whatever resource that they need for that. Where everybody else, it's like just
Poor people don't have
around you.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, even like having the Wi-Fi is one thing, but like if you have the money and shit like that to like get them in, to even buy like extra programs and stuff like that, or even like specific toys and stuff like that, or even if you have the time to like be able to look into that stuff, like that means a lot. And that's one thing that people kind of are bringing up, that whole like, which something we're clearly probably not going to see for like another maybe 5-10 years, maybe sooner. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's one thing that's people constantly bring up about like not continuing school.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the exodus that's happening in New York City, where there are like 300 people and counting who have officially left and filed for change of addresses, because they've left the city. And well, some went to upstate or Long Island, but around half are all over the country.
Do you think this is the end of New York?
I was about to ask that. You think New York is done? Like it's over?
No.
No, it's possible that, especially with the way the crime rate is spiking too, that it's kind of a return to some of the things that were happening in the 70s, early 80s. There's the economic downturn, people becoming a lot more desperate. There are going to be cuts made into education budget, because it's going to be the first thing that's always cut. One of the things they're like suffering is going to try to siphon some money into the MTA to keep that shit afloat, because ridership is down and they're scared. I'm also thinking about like the implications of how many people, even when we were sheltering in, because New York refused to do a full quarantine, because economically it wouldn't have been beneficial. Even though it would have been safer for people, and we actually probably wouldn't have some of the issues that we're having now that actually had occurred. But I'm thinking about how many hundreds of people were boarding trains in the Bronx on like the reduced MTA service, particularly because they were essential workers, or their families were just like too poor to be able to stay home. And what's the impact on education when, like, everyone is supposed to shelter in? You're a kid going to school on an iPad or on a Chromebook, if you even have that at all, and your parent is going to and from on the subway because they have to, right? So it's like you have like, I think one of the silences that occurs, or one of the gaps that happens in these conversations, is that you've got like these children and these families that are still like in commuter culture, really, and that are still like also involved in like in-person contact, and they're not social distancing because they can't, right? What social distancing is there in like high rises in the Bronx, where people are living far below the poverty line? What social distancing is there like in a 1-bedroom with 5 like people living in it, or 10 people living it in the projects, where people are like still essential workers like commuting back and forth? So I think a lot about how like the education system is really pushing this return to like the most aggressive plan to reopen in the entire country, and the implications of that, when the implications on the economy is one thing, but they're also not thinking about the people whose lives have been at risk now for about a better part of 9 months.
Yeah, I think things like these, like events like these, magnify the underlying issues, that we deal with, like the material conditions of people. And it's always whatever happens to the poor, or the lowest rung on the economic or social ladder, is always kind of like it's always a preview what's to happen to everyone else. It's unfortunate. We're just woefully unprepared as a society. Like, society is not built for taking care of people. It's built on this sort of I don't even know what to call it, but it's like it's something that values productivity over human life. Vast majority of arguments against things like quarantine all have to do with economics. It's all about productivity. It's all about producing things, and it's just like I don't know. It's just a little sad, because you compare it to other countries, South Korea, Scandinavia, things of that nature. they built a society and that has people in mind. Not that it's perfect, but it's just fundamentally different.
I do want to say that I feel like a lot of things. I feel like capitalism is kind of like the religion of the U.S., but also the U.S. is huge, and and you've mentioned it tons of times before, but that's like the big thing. It's just that we're freaking enormous compared to other countries, and we have a pretty diverse enough population and shit like that. So it's like all these states have their own little laws and stuff. It's just like you have more people trying to fucking make shit happen. So clearly things are just gonna take longer. But I think really the big thing is just like, and you guys have traveled a lot more than me, but it's just this whole idea that it feels like capitalism is just like is religion here, and maybe that's mainly more because maybe I think a lot of people don't really understand capitalism or money in general. So they kind of see capitalism as like this, this thing, in a sense, like some natural type law, the whole thing about, you know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Go
for it.
I would say when you build a society on the values of capitalism and white supremacy, on the exploitation of poor people, on the involuntary, servitude, the enslavement of African people, the genocide of indigenous people, this is also what you get. Like, this is the equation, particularly when you pride capitalism over democracy.
Yeah, and it's the American sort of brand of capitalism that's like influenced with the culture. It's like it's very much an idea that it's not the government's responsibility to take care of the people. It's fundamentally different. It's the idea that government purely exists to enforce laws and protect property, and everything else is like left to the people.
But if we really look at 2016 to 2020, the messaging from people in power who just happen to be white this time is that lives are cheap, productivity is not. So the ultimate goal of the game is to make him look good, the person in charge, at whatever cost. So first he says, like recently, the mail-in ballots are not reliable, they are corrupted. Then he said, last night, why don't you just vote twice? Do one in person, mail one out, and if the system really is able to check itself, then you won't be able to vote because you voted already.
Yeah, I think at this point, I think he realizes that the way to win the White House is to galvanize the country as much as possible and really just stir the pot, like you said earlier. Like his big thing is that you really can't guess what he's going to say next. He consistently contradicts himself. He doesn't necessarily care about being right. He just has the mentality, or I imagine he has the mentality, is that it's like this hyper pragmatism. It's like whatever I need to say to get what I want is right regardless. It's like the ultimate ends justify the means mentality.
And the irony for him specifically, like he is a specimen that he is quite a specimen you'd like to study. Like, how do you tick? Because when he was still just doing the reality shows and the realty, unbeknownst to many, he actually has a brother who has special needs. I think a brother or sister. And one of the schools I used to service, it was a private school, out on facing the Hudson. Remember, there used to be Trump apartments, like facing the river.
Yep.
On the Midtown. He donated like a whole floor to this school, rent free, just for these kids. No fanfare, no nothing. And then on the flip side, you have this leech, this maniacal Twitter mongering fear-mongering, divisive, racist, and sexist. Like, which of the characters is the right one? Like, you never know.
Yeah, I think it's probably both. I mean, I imagine it's. I mean, once like because he's been under the pressure cooker for how many years? I think he's probably gotten to a point where it's like automatic to compartmentalize, right? Like he can empathize with these kids because he has a personal connection to it, right? So maybe to his family or to his friends or to whomever he's close to, he's this warm, giving person, but to everyone else, he's like this tyrant. And that seems to be like consistent somewhat through history. Like a lot of tyrants through history, they take care of their the stakeholders around them and say fuck everyone else. It's sort of like I need to be this way to secure my future. It's a fucked up way of thinking, but and again, I'm not in his head, I'm not trained professional, but I imagine that's probably the case, that he just knows how to compartmentalize super hard.
Isn't that dangerous, though? Those are the people who should not be in power or give them excessive power or excessive resources. Was Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and Mr. Hyde's friends?
Oh, yeah, I mean that's fucking crazy. Like that's kind of what we would call a crazy person, who someone who's able to just switch. Like there's movies about that with people with multiple personalities and shit like that. But
Edward Norton and shit, just mad Hulk.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
That's scary. It's kind of scary.
See, but I'd rather have Hulk, because Hulk is predictable. You understand what sets him off and what triggers him.
Right.
When it's happening at a person's whim, when it's about their capriciousness that they can switch up at any given moment, it's one person with so many different games at play. You never know which one is happening, and that is dangerous. And I think that is how tyrants and dictators happen. It's how people have colonized places and carved up continents. And he is. I remember when he got elected, in air quotes. I thought to myself, he may not be the president that many of us want in this country, but in many ways, given his history, very, very, very much the president that America deserves. And that is the difficult pill to actually have to swallow. If everything this place stands for real, not what it says it stands for, he embodies the worst elements of American arrogance, aristocracy, incompetence, overall, because he doesn't know shit about anything.
He's a fashion?
Fashion. He looks like trash.
Oh.
Yeah, with a really bad toupee. Like, it's just,
and the orange skin, man. Like, oh, God.
The orange skin is crazy.
Like, he talks like he's a wise guy, but like, yo, your ancestry is German. Like, you're a wannabe mobster.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the old school New York confidence man who just happened to end up in the White House.
Yeah.
You know what kind of really upsets me about this is that, like, he's gonna be somebody that's gonna be talked about for like ever, in regards to, like, well, not forever, I guess, for a while in our generation. Hopefully not forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just kind of like, it's just frustrating because, it's just frustrating. Like, I wish this guy just never existed, like, whatever, man. But he's here, and it's like he's doing exactly the right things to pull everybody's strings and to immortalize himself in a sense, which I feel is kind of like, one aspect of this that he probably cares a lot about. A lot of people that are like that, they think a lot about the immortality, Kanye West and shit like that.
It makes me think of like shooters who are just trying to be the villain. They're trying to shoot stuff up just because they want to be known, or they want the infamy. So it's like, I shot the school up, and everybody names the shooter, and you know who the shooter is forever, or you know who the serial killer is forever, but you don't know who the victims are. And it's because everybody wants to acknowledge the shooter and figure out what he did, why he's like that, what happened, why did he do it. It's like that like, that's how I view him. I'm going to do whatever it takes to stamp my name in history books, no matter how fucked up I look. But you're going to remember who I am. Like, it's like that kind of shit.
But then what mentality, again, fuels that? Our conversation started with capitalism. What sells? Sex,
I
drugs,
I mean
violence,
I,
alcohol.
Yeah. Sex, drugs,
I mean
violence.
some
Yeah.
maybe. I think someone like that is going to be that type of person. Like I don't even know. It's hard to know why he is the way he is or why people like that are the way they are. Obviously, their environment has something to do with it, but I don't know. It's hard because I don't know the line between nature and nurture. I don't know if some people are just, you know, are just like that or if it's purely environment. It's hard for me to know. I'm not a professional, so it's hard to gauge. But I imagine it's probably how he grew up. You know, it's his he grew up to a New York real estate family. Um, I think his father was a slumlord, pretty much. And then you kind of get that mentality when you're when you're incentivized for being a certain way, right? Like I had a brief stint in real estate, and I was pretty, I wouldn't say shocked, but it was interesting to find that like acting ethically would be like, hey, bro, why'd you do that? You could have made $5,000 extra dollars if you did this. It's like incentives drive people, and he probably grew up in an environment where he was incentivized to act a certain way and to make as much money as possible and to step over people. So yeah, I guess that goes. It probably was his environment. Yeah, I was like thinking out loud, but probably had a lot to do with that.
Well, you're actually right because his sister also, who came out with Tell All, did say that the father was typical German, very hands off. Love was not exactly something that was expressed, but extremely harder on him because he wanted the father's approval. So that's your nurture part. The nature part, I'm not sure how the rest of the family dynamics went, but everything was measured according to money. So money and power begets a dictator, a madman.
Yeah.
So stepping away from Trump, the level of trauma people are gonna leave this pandemic with, it's got to be like unprecedented, bro. It's like so many people are suffering from being alone. So many people are suffering from being with their significant other, like the divorce rates went up. And then so many people are just outside because they can't stay inside. It's just like, I have to be outside. That is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm seeing so many people partying, so many people going to Miami,
Facts.
Tulum. It's crazy, bro.
We're probably gonna get some good music from all the suffering that happens during this.
Oh my
and
god,
after
yeah,
this.
when there's suffering, there's art. Oh my god, I can't wait for all the dope fucking
Music
that's
shit.
That's
It's
fucked
gonna-
up. But all the fucking dope albums that's gonna come from the Rona, bro.
Mumble rap is gonna die. Some
Fucking
other shit.
chaos. Chaos.
Pro, didn't you create something? Well, aside from lost your hair purposefully?
Yes, yeah, I did purposely, shave the head, grow the beard. I mean, I have books that I'm working on, but some of that was happening before Corona. But I've been making beats and I'm working on a few things. But yeah, no, that's definitely a part of it. That in order to process all this shit, that people turn to the things that give them the opportunity to feel alive. And one of my best friends recorded an entire EP. He ended up having to engineer it. Like, he's worked with professional producers his whole career, but he engineered his entire EP and recorded it at home. And it's a quarantine themed mixtape. His name is So Soon. The name of the mixtape is Sony Quarantine, Sound of New York Quarantine. And it's pretty dope. It's one of the best things I've ever heard him write. And I used to manage him, so I definitely know. So a lot of great art will come out of it. Like, the Lox just dropped the album that I hear is good. Nas dropped a banger. Like, people are putting out really good music right now.
Nas dropped a banger.
But I think it's going to continue to happen that way. I think that the film industry is going to suffer a little bit, but people will possibly greenlight more things. But, in addition to this particular pandemic, you've also got the ways in which, and I keep hearing things from Indian country about how much the pandemic numbers have not dropped at all on the reservations out west, particularly on the Dene reservations, the Navajo, the numbers are skyrocketing and there are no real doctors or hospital services because they're on reservation land. You're looking at hospitals that might be 100 miles away, and doctors are not going to them, so just letting people die. And you have this particular president talking about dividing up their reservations to try to look for oil. Like, there's many implications. There are ways that people in real estate are looking at people leaving New York or dying out about how they can flip that apartment or flip that building. So there's going to be that'll be created from this. There's going to be some chaos and some turmoil too. Because like you mentioned, like a lot of people are suffering, and that spills out into the streets in calm ways. It spills out in terms of like people not taking their mask, putting their mask on, or, you know, walking around outside or partying too much, or it breeds conflict because people have been inside so long and they're so angry. I mean, so many people in New York now know people who passed away from COVID at this point. There's a lot of rage that New Yorkers are not speaking. And there's this push to return to business as usual, to reopen the economy, to reopen the city. We're New York, we're strong, we're tough. We get right back up when we go to work. And it's like, but what happens when people get to work? They're rude to each other, they're more combative, they're more distant, and it's continuing to compound and make people relive that trauma. So it makes the environments really tense and untenable. And you have people willing to leave industries they've been in for long periods of time and dedicated all this energy to because they feel abused, because very often they are, because they're being asked to do something that isn't human, which is forget about all of the trauma that's just occurred just for the sake of productivity. But how are you going to ask somebody to be productive if you don't honor their humanity?
Right. Shit.
We don't. Replace them with robots. Fuck that.
And then the robots are going to rebel and kill us all.
All right. iRobot.
I've seen that movie.
I'm going to make friends with robots starting now.
You are a robot.
Oh, speaking of robots, did you hear the approval that
robot?
Amazon's drones are going to start delivering in New York?
No, this shit is going to look like... I did not.
Yeah, so they look
I'm getting a gun
to me. They're like three kinds, and one looks like a grasshopper. I'm like, what is that?
You know what? They're probably gonna.
The Boston Dynamics dog thing.
Well, I'm hoping it flies and doesn't hop, because if it hops, then that's just plain weird. Bot packages.
They're probably just gonna tell us that that's what they're using it for. But if you have something operating in the air, you can sell that information to. Yeah, 100%. You got something with a fucking camera, child. Please, man, I'm selling that information. Not me, but Amazon me would be like, oh, government, do you want this shit?
Right.
You know, yo, that's such a dangerous thing, because it's just like people don't think about the negative effects of like the things that you think are fucking positive, and everything is like a double-edged sword, especially with technology. Like, it's not fucking good or bad. It's fucking do what, you know, it's whatever in betweenies.
We saw Dark Knight. Bro. It's gonna be just like that, bro. Morgan Freeman's gonna have to shut the whole shit down.
I hope that I at least get my packages faster if they're gonna fucking surveillance me.
As long as they surveillance you.
If they're gonna do that shit with or without my permission.
Listen, no. See, what I'm waiting for is the innovation of our people, the innovation of the hood. The same way when the city bikes came and everyone knew how to pop them and shit and not pay for them. I swear to God, I'm gonna see somebody riding one of these drones, and then it turns into their personal sports car.
Now you know the hood finds a way to make a way every single time. So you know we're still in drones. That's gonna be crazy. I know people with packages will get stolen.
They're definitely gonna get stolen, but I'm also saying, like, somebody can use it for the greater good, like more efficient weed delivery, like something.
There's no tariffs.
Wait a minute, we might be on something.
I mean, they would do alcohol for sure, so why not package some happy cookies while you're at it?
They would. Well, they definitely will. Alcohol is probably gonna be the first thing.
Listen, you might as well have drones deliver your Chromebooks to your kids.
So we don't gotta fucking yeah.
Eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Society, man.
You know what I'm thinking about? Like, I guess because I love to do this a lot, but really like food and restaurants and stuff like that. Because clearly they've been getting hit the hardest. But once winter comes, right? Like, what the fuck do restaurants think they're gonna be able to do if you can't have indoor indoor dining and shit like that? So that's gonna hurt them a lot more.
October 31st, bro. That's when they shut that shit down. All that in-street dining, October 31st is when it all goes down.
Or we're going to go the way of Georgia, where the numbers went high and they said, fuck it, the clubs are open. They reopened the sex clubs. Everything is open. Open for business. Every single thing is open. There is nothing closed.
Yo, on the topic of fucking parties, man, I can't remember. I didn't read the results of this, but I think it was Germany that did some stuff. I don't remember if I told you, Loso or Ed Boy, but some country was doing a COVID experiment where they had like a few different types of parties, one without mask, one with mask, one socially distancing, to measure I guess how it'll spread within indoors. I think it was Germany because I remember Russia. Germany? Yeah, because I remember making that joke.
They were hosting like concerts and stuff.
Yeah.
To see like transmission rates, which bro, that's not fucking ethical, but it is. But I mean, Germans have a cool little track record.
But I feel like that's what the DOE is doing by opening schools up. This is their German experiment.
This is the dopest shit ever. Like if I just don't give a fuck about people and I work in epidemiology, I'm like, yo, this is dope. Mad data.
So in Germany, they're doing contact tracing. That's what they're doing. Literal.
Yeah, I believe
tracing.
So.
Interesting.
I believe so, but they're allowing like smaller concerts and things like that to go on.
Oh wow! So pop quiz: what country in the world has not had COVID? Trivia time.
North Korea.
Micronesia.
No and no.
Russia.
Nauru.
Turkey.
Papua New Guinea.
Wakanda.
Ethiopia.
Nope.
Say
I'm trying to think of what country can't measure it.
It is.
Cape Verde.
Nope, it's a cold country. It's the country of Iceland. Absolutely none.
They're also smart.
Nobody's there. Nobody goes there.
I go to Greenland.
People go. Greenland has COVID.
Iceland is a fucking big tourist spot, especially
Iceland's green.
They're lying.
Misery loves company, right?
Even North Korea got like a case of some shit like that.
They killed them. Immediately.
They got the ill contact tracing, just fucking murking. That's why they're
cured.
Wait, so Iceland had none at all? Is it the only country in the world?
It is the only country in the world.
We gotta send some people over.
Like Micronesia had cases?
I think they had 2.
Nauru had cases?
No. Let's think about Micronesia. Where are the demographics of people who are doing tourism in Micronesia from? And how might that aid in transmission?
Ooh.
That boy is frozen.
That's how hard he got hit.
That's how hard it was.
with the pro knowledge. Professional.
That boy came.
He got kicked off.
Yo, hold on. I'm taking a screenshot of this real quick.
Yeah, take a picture of this. Michael.
Los, I'm sending that shit to you.
I'm trying to think about TV shows and shit like that. Yo, there's this I guess the what is it, the film and entertainment industry, which is in general getting hit hard. But I did come across this new show that's called Love in the Time of Corona.
Yes.
I don't know if any of y'all heard of it.
Yes.
It's the main reason I saw it was because it said Rona. But the guy who plays Aaron Burr.
You sure you're not your significant other didn't make you watch it? Are we sure about this?
Probably.
Leslie plays
yeah.
Oh.
He plays Aaron Burr plays a main character. But I thought it was interesting because I guess it follows a few families around, and I guess what social distancing and life looks like in the time of Corona or whatever. But I'm assuming it's clearly like a newer show.
Yeah, that's the scripted series. There is also a reality show about love in the time of Corona.
A semi-scripted.
On MTV somewhere. MTV
so it's
Catfish.
It's Catfish 2.0.
Nope. Well, not quite. Because they actually are together in living.
Oh,
they're following real life couples.
I mean, From what I've heard, without actually looking up information because I didn't care to search, a lot of people were going through high divorce rates based on this corona shit because they were actually forced to sit with their significant other and figure out if I love them or not. And they
Bro,
couldn't.
you get annoyed with anybody if you're around them long enough.
I agree.
Anybody.
I agree.
Especially, my
imagine-
man, if you're in New York, bro, with these no space having as apartments, like.
Well, my relationship ended before corona, so I was fine. No.
We're not going to comment on that, are we?
My relationship with myself.
No comment.
No comment on that.
None at all.
So imagine if it was like during corona. Oh my God. I would have been crazy.
But even those who have children who decided they needed like a whole basketball team full, right? The common responses were, it's not natural to be spending so much time with the same people. But if you think about it, they're your children. You decided to have them. So can't really say that it's not supposed to be, but because that is. You think before modern 2020 happened, people weren't spending 100% of their time with their children? Of course they were.
Yeah. Capitalism changed that, the U.S. becoming a dominant capitalist power and empire. It's like, no, who wants to spend time with their family, with their kids? No, we have servants for that. And by servants, I mean slaves.
Capitalism and industrialization really changed everything about our lives. Like just the sleep schedules, the routines, just the idea of what a family is and shit like that. Crazy.
Yeah, I read about it in those whitewashed textbooks.
Well, who of you here did? Well, I know Pro did. Pro connected with nature during the time of Rona. Any of you go out there, find your other animal or plant?
No.
I have my spirit plant, and it's I've become closer with my spirit plants.
Oh yeah, we do have plants now. We have plants in the crib. I got a plant as a gift, and it's still alive. So it's been like a month and change. So that's
what kind of
that's
plant?
an accomplishment.
What kind of plant?
It's a Dracaena or something like that. I'll show you. Hold on,
It's a ficus.
Hold on.
I've just been cooking like crazy, D. Wait till next time we host and you come over. The chicken's next level.
The chicken, man.
But we could cook way more stuff now, man. Special people get a menu. Non-special people get chicken.
We do menus now? Whoa.
When 2022 opens up, it'll be menus. It'll be menus for specific people.
2022.
Yeah, man. This shit ain't going away anytime soon.
Nah, not at all. I feel like it's gonna spike again in October. But yeah, people, if you are able and you have the ability, get to some nature. Like I ran away to upstate New York. I was in Ithaca, back to where I went to college for a while. Ran through some waterfalls, enjoyed some parks. Was really far away from people. It felt great. And I went up to the Hudson River Valley a couple weekends ago. I am going away again this weekend. I don't know where. I'm just gonna hop in the car. I'm gonna drive. I'm gonna find a spot with no people where I can take my mask off and just kick it.
Shit.
Nice.
Yeah, let's do that,
y'all. Some dirt.
Yeah, and you know where I went. Live on. You know where I went.
You went to, what was it called? It was a specific name. The Eastern Grand Canyon.
Well, close. It's called the Grand Canyon of the East. It's in Western New York.
Of the East, yeah.
Letchworth State Park, where you really lose complete signal. Soon as you hit the park, there's no towers. It's just you, 3 wonderful waterfalls, tribal council woods, and a cabin overlooking all of nature. Man, you connect with birds. You connect with just being somewhere that's not the city.
Just being out, yeah.
Where instead of seeing rats, you see chipmunks. Those are the rat equivalents.
Yo, chipmunks are gangster.
They are gangster, man.
Because they'll run up on you. They don't care. They're like, yo, what's that you claiming? And I'm like, I'm
they
just trying to go to
you
work.
out there.
They really do.
Nah, that's amazing.
So yeah,
Sounds like a good place to hide a
you
body.
have to reconnect in the time of Rona. Yes, you forget your own humanity. But yay for plants.
Spiritual and what is it? Dramatius? What's your plant called? The ficus?
What?
What's your plant called? Ficus?
Dracaris.
Oh my god, bro. What?
It's draconian.
Anybody pick up any new hobbies during COVID outside of the political market? Outside of
Drinking.
drinking.
I'm back to gaming. I'm back to gaming. I'm back to gaming. I played Assassin's Creed Origins. I'm still playing it. I'm 75% of the way through the story, 90% level of like world discovery. I finished over half the side quests. And when I get mad, I just go in and kill a whole Roman garrison. It's beautiful. And take photos of while I'm doing it.
That's a therapeutic task.
Killing people.
Yeah, and
No, but
I
it is,
also
though.
like climbing and looting pyramids and sliding down the side of them. Like, it was real fun.
Especially after, a long day, right? A very long day.
How close is Origins to the actual historical culture? Because I know it's supposed to focus on us.
Yeah, no, it's very accurate. So the protagonist, he's from ancient Kemet. He's from Siwa, the oasis of Siwa. And he is, he's brown. Like, he's not a brother. He's got locks. Actually, he's mad at locks in the beginning. He ends up shaving and cutting the hair. But like, he's a brolic brown dude. You have a lot of folks with African features and not necessarily just called Nubians. These are the native Egyptians that are actually being oppressed by a lot of the Greeks within the story. Cleopatra is viewed as being multi-ethnic because she was, as well as like the protagonist's wife, Amenet, who was like half Greek, half Egyptian. The pyramids, like I remember when I showed Damien the photo of the pyramids from Assassin's Creed Origins, like, oh my God, this is the first time I've ever seen this created like visually in a way that matches what I read in Herodotus, where people would talk about being able to see the pyramids on the horizon and not knowing what it was because like the sun was shining so off, it looked like a star on the ground.
Yeah.
Because they weren't like jagged on the sides, they were smooth with white limestone and gold and silver caps. And all that shit got looted to build the city of Cairo and to build a whole bunch of other things like that the Greeks and the Arabs created. They took the limestone off the pyramids. And what are left now are some more of the interior stones as opposed to what used to be there. But they have that. Actually, the joint is so accurate that in the game, they had discovered, like in their research, this particular shaft and chamber inside of the Great Pyramid. And they created it in the game, and it turned out to be exactly where they put it in the game in real life.
That's fucking fun. To give everybody the understanding of what Pro is talking about, what Pro and I are talking about, the Assassin's Creed is a series of close to historical, accurate depictions of consistent assassins placed within specific societies as they mature through history. So you have Capulets versus what are they called? Capulets and
No, you're thinking of Romeo and Juliet. It's the assassins versus Templars.
Yeah, you're thinking of
Templars. Sorry. It's
I was gonna let you go to see where it went. Just I thought it was.
I said Capulet. Yeah, what the? That's not even a fucking
Montagues and Capulets.
The Montagues. Yeah, my bad. It sounded. I could have got away with it. People would have like, yeah.
So Levon's syndrome right now is called brain stew due to tech burnout. We have spoken about this, right, Levon?
Yeah, we did. Being on tech too long, I'm starting to see shit, bro. I'm just at some points I'm just kind of going. I'm just talking.
So this is so dope how they were able to, I guess, how they attempted to make this extremely historically accurate, visually accurate as well. Oh, that's fucking dope. Because now I'm looking up pictures to see
how close it is. Let me
not to see how close it is. I don't fucking know.
Let me explain Assassin's Creed before we go any further. So it's a game of assassins, and they try to collect it historically. And the most recent installment was focused on Egyptian culture.
African American.
Not African American, Egyptian culture specifically.
Pro, are you sure you don't want to take over?
Yep, I'm going to take over. And the most recent film that's coming out is actually going to be on Viking culture. It's going to be they've moved away from like the straight like Arkham Asylum style of like action game of the earlier portions of the series with that kind of fighting system, something that's way more like RPG like and super open world. So Origins has an open world, then you have Odyssey, which has an even bigger open world. Now you're gonna have Valhalla, which is even larger. So you have like the ability to like harvest and create particular materials, run a society, and then you have the Assassin's Quest as well. But Assassin's Creed has like this fictitious prehistory of like these beings that are like called the ones that came before. They're like almost worshipped as deities throughout the world, but like they're just like this extraterrestrial life form that came here and then like, you know, bioengineered human beings and then like made them into slaves. All kinds of like real wild shit in terms of like that portion of the game. But then you have the portions of the game that are set within history. Like when you look at Assassin's Creed 2, it's set in Florence. You've got a protagonist who's friends with Leonardo da Vinci and Lorenzo de Medici. And like I learned about the Medicis through that game, and I started watching the TV show and like everything connected to it because I thought it was really cool. And then like when I think about Assassin's Creed and the number of other games I've played, I think about the ways in which they've always been able to like connect me to periods of history that I was studying, or it gives me interest in periods of history that I didn't give a shit about, which could tell me that the writing is really good, the graphics are good, and the gameplay is good to keep me engaged. And I talk to like our students a lot about like what they're playing. Like, you know, when they're trying to fight off their brain soup and I'm trying to figure out what's contributing to them, like, what have you been in front of all day? And their answer is like Fortnite or Roblox. And I'm like, oh.
Nah, Fortnite is alright.
Life is not. No, it's not.
It's for Sims.
It is. Even when I think about like shooter games, the kids who play Call of Duty, even though it's military industrial complex brainwashing, it's a better game. It's a significantly better game. And it's like, yo, I could go through and like.
Well, you'll have to though. What makes it better? What qualities make it better?
For me,
I'm going to defend Fortnite when you're finished. I'm going to defend.
For me, but also it's like when it comes to video gaming, I've been playing first-person shooters since I was like 10. Like I've always been in it. My dad is a gamer, so like I'm part of this gamer culture. So I always look for realism. I look for fluidity of controls. I'm looking for something that doesn't look or feel like a cartoon, something that I can really learn from that has real world stakes and applications, even if the shit is like underlying racist. And those are the things that I find to be fun, of like the challenge of the realism, like things that I'm doing within the game that I could apply to real life and real life environments. Like I'm not going to be able to do some kind of random jetpack move to propel me across a thing or build a level while I'm running up and shooting somebody. It's like, no, I'm going to throw this flashbang. If it bounces off the wall the wrong way, then my character is going to get hurt, right? So like the ways in which like Fortnite is built for a generation that grew up on like a more cartoon-based culture. So like while I don't like it personally, while I personally feel the game is trash, I understand why people are attracted to it. If they grew up playing games or watching television or consuming media, that was a lot more fluffy. I feel like Fortnite is Call of Duty for people who grew up watching Barney.
Yeah, you should pick up Mario Party. That's like right up your alley.
Okay, Lavon, your turn.
Okay. So a major part that I like Fortnite is because it's completely random consistently, and stepping outside of the gameplay and looking at the people who created it, they're radicals. So they're trying to go against everything, every system set in place that makes that kind of like created these monopolies or these monopolizing companies within the gaming industry, and they're trying to go against everything about that. So right now, Fortnite is going against Apple because Apple is trying to monopolize the entire market, and Fortnite's like, yo, fuck that. We're not going to sell to you anymore, and you can't play our game anymore. And they're like, yo, you need to release what you do in these stores based on how you're trying to monopolize everybody in the market. And Apple is known for that. So my affinity for Fortnite is, of course, the randomization. 1, 2, my students are loving it. So I jumped into it just to play with my students. And I end up like fucking with it too. And the seasons hit specific, much like Assassin's Creed, but no, not much like, but kind of like Assassin's Creed. They have seasons that specify and stick to specific comic book or anything outside of what it's like connected to what's going on in the real world. So it's like music, pop culture. They're doing a Marvel connection now. it's just very interesting. I can see how it looks like super childish because it's all cartoony and all that stuff, but the gameplay is not that bad. It's not Call of Duty.
Not that bad.
It's not.
He's
not bad.
he's hardcore trying to sell us on Fortnite.
It's not
like he's
bad.
like, oh,
Is it
oh my
working?
god,
Is it working?
Fortnite
it's not
is
that bad, guys.
I'll tell you.
Yo,
All right,
yo,
so
Fortnite is
Fucking
so-
loser.
if
No.
you like
They're redoing anime
bright colors.
to look like Fortnite. They're redoing. Like I saw on Netflix, like, oh, they're releasing new Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. I gotta watch that shit. I turned it on. It looked like Fortnite. I was like, get the fuck out of here. I gotta go.
nah, it's like
I saw it. It wasn't as good as the original ones, but
No, it wasn't. It was really, really bad. And the animation was terrible. Like, it was so jagged. They spent all the money trying to make it look 3D, and then people can't even lift their arms. It was terrible.
Well,
that's
actually,
not
I think they do the 3D to save money.
Yeah,
That's what a lot of animators have been doing. It's actually cheaper to do that style than it is to actually
draw.
Well, not just draw, right?
Animate.
Because like nowadays, most of them do it like they digitally draw. They draw, but they do it like that. But it's cheaper to render that type of stuff. So it's actually lower budget than normal.
like the Ghost in the Shell, the movies and the series that was on Toonami on Cartoon Network, like those at the moment they were like the most expensive like animations to make, and like it got canceled not because it wasn't doing well, because it's a dope ass show. It still holds. Like after I saw the new the standalone Complex 2045, I went back and saw the original two, and I like those way more. But not only because of the drawings, there's other like reasons behind that. But like, yeah, that's kind of like why they got canceled, and they only brought it back because I think it was just because it's cheaper to like animate like that. But definitely, the story definitely suffered compared to the other ones.
Yo,
If you could connect an anime to what's going on in the world right now, what would it be, and why is it Death Note?
Oh, I was gonna talk about how
moving on.
They had a token black guy in standalone
What is
complex.
this, a classroom? What just
I felt
happened?
like that
Moving
was
on.
pandering.
Skip past.
Yo, I was gonna say, like, a common denominator of a lot of our conversation, I'm even thinking about the implications on this, like with the election, is how much more media and screen time people are consuming. And I also feel like that's like creating these tense situations when people are encountering each other outside, that spending all this time in this virtual world and not interacting with humans, like you're only interacting with a screen. I remember when I saw some of the students in the park, we had like the socially distanced like meetup, and I'm like, yo, you don't fit inside of like the box on my table anymore. You grew like 4 inches in your voice drop, but I couldn't tell because of the microphone you've been talking over. Like it's kind of wild and it's kind of surreal, like being around a person. Like, wait, how do I do this again? So I'm also wondering like the ways in which people are going to be suffering socially in terms of like actual human connection from all of this time dealing with tech and dealing with looking at somebody's face in a box.
I think it's going to become normalized, just like we've sort of been domesticated in not post-industrial society, like how we're domesticated, how like you guys mentioned earlier about like how we operate under a certain workday, how we communicate a certain way, how we interact. I think it'll just be a permanent part of, who we are, right? So the baseline will change. I think the baseline for what people consider healthy interaction will move further and further away from what we see as normal,
It's getting dark at 7 now.
Yeah, it's September.
Bro, what the? Bro, it's almost 8, and it's like September.
Nah, it just threw me off.
Bro, you've been bugging for like 30 years. Like, what the fuck?
COVID.
COVID.
This whole COVID thing, though, I'm kind of treating it as like a hyperbolic time chamber type thing. Like, I'm just going,
Oh, he's training.
Mind my business, just take advantage of the situation and then just train
like
and
Fallout.
Come out Super Saiyan 3.
Fallout when you leave the vault.
Mm-hmm. And then I got to worry about the mutated people outside.
They're mutated people.
The
But,
super mutants.
I mean, it does force you to stop, right? I mean, especially in March, April, if you didn't have it and you were home, it just forced you to really think priorities. What just happened? your whole routine just got ripped. You're like, all right, so what did I use as my identity marker? Was it going to work every day, meeting up with friends, maybe talking to people in my family occasionally? Like, what really mattered at that moment? Now, will that priority list shift? Of course, probably. But the first half of the quarantine, you bet people strengthened their relationships. Now, the second half, people got antsy. And now we're going into fall, going back into where we were in March. What do you think the results are going to be? They're most likely not going to be the same.
It'll be, yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting because, like, I also think that, you know, this shit is definitely going to kick off hard in the fall and winter. Because it'll also, you know, be aligned with flu season as well. We don't know how the virus is going to be dealt with, or how the virus is going to react. If it's anything similar to the flu, well, a lot more people are going to be fucked. You know, DOE not necessarily having a concrete plan about having kids go to school. Well, that's going to be a problem. That's going to increase transmission. So, I think it'll probably follow a similar arc, but everything's going to happen much faster because it'll be super familiar. People are going to lock down. People are going to get antsy a lot quicker. People are going to get pissed off a lot quicker. And no telling what's going to happen. And particularly what I'm really worried about, like, forget COVID, is this eviction crisis. That's going to be insane because, you know, you have like supposedly 20 million, probably more than that, households at risk of being, it's probably way more than that. I think that's like a lowball number, but like you have that many people at risk of being evicted. You know, people think unrest is bad now. People think protests are bad now. Wait till people don't have a place to live. Then shit is really going to get crazy.
What do you guys think it would be conspiracy like if evictions happened right before elections?
Well,
No,
it's
I think
not
it's
happening
conspiracy.
here.
I think that's calculated.
It's happening. It happened in Houston already this week. There's a whole apartment complex that had Houston police going door to door, and these people were immigrants were showing like, we just got jobs back. They didn't care. Threw all their children's stuff onto the street and then locked up the door.
That's crazy and pretty inhumane. It just shows kind of like our patchwork of a system. Like there's no safety net that addresses things like this. But I mean, it's probably even more fundamental problem than that. But yeah, it's gonna get real fucking nasty. It's gonna get real nasty real soon if drastic measures, like even if drastic measures are taken, like people are fed up. People are fed up. So I think this is just sort of the beginning.
Yeah, I think that there's a possibility that not only will be drastic, that people will make like major changes in behavior. Like I might start playing Fortnite.
Oh yeah, yo, bro. When
Yes, he did a good job
starts,
of convincing you.
Yo, when Pro starts playing Fortnite, that's
it. That's it. We
You know
know
it's bad.
the end.
Yeah, in all honesty,
Leave New York.
I would have never played this shit if it wasn't for COVID, bro.
Yeah,
COVID
stop making excuses. But yeah, you're making
That was
mad
the plan.
excuses right now.
If it wasn't for COVID, I would have never played it.
Yeah, okay, bro. All right,
Right.
sure.
You started it before COVID.
Wait a minute.
I'm pretty sure
needed
before
friends.
COVID you mentioned you were like, yeah, man, Fortnite. What about that? I'm like, okay.
During COVID, bro. I never.
Yeah, all right.
Get out of here.
No, time out, because this was
We
in
have the
person.
proof. We have the
This was
proof
in
too.
person.
I didn't
Remember?
play it. I didn't play it yet.
Okay.
We hated it as a team. We all hated Fortnite.
I
First
never
you
hated
said-
Fortnite. I just thought it was like, I don't know. It just didn't look that fun. But you were kind of like, yeah, man. You know, it's not that bad.
It's, you know what? You know what's crazy? What makes it
All right,
fun-
let D talk because that shit is stupid.
Go ahead, D. Go ahead.
Didn't you say it was because of your kids? Had nothing to do with Corona.
Ooh.
Oh my God, bro.
COVID, Corona, kids, Fortnite.
Oh my God. Wouldn't even make a.
Connected. or connected?
Man, politics is not in your future. You got caught real quick.
Well, Pro, if you're gonna play it, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yo, when pros start,
Crusher for 3 seasons.
yo, if he plays Fortnite, that's how we know we need to get the fuck out the country because shit's about to go real bad.
If I'm playing Fortnite, I guarantee you I'm not in the country.
He's
That I have
gonna be in
moved
it's me fucking
somewhere to the
Sweden.
global south, not to someplace warm, near a jungle
Iceland.
and some water. Ain't no jungle in Iceland. I could be near a hot spring, but I don't think the hot spring has Wi-Fi.
He's gonna
But
fucking
there won't
play
be no
Fortnite.
mosquitoes in Iceland, so that's tempting. It's real tempting.
No, bet. If they both play, the 3 of us will be on the audience side shit talking him.
Yeah.
That's what we'll do.
I'm not gonna waste my time watching somebody else play a freaking thing. Not you. It's nothing to do with you. I can't watch other people play that.
I'm
stupid
above this.
Fortnite, no, bro, no.
Listen,
I'm so much better than this.
I'm going to irritate Levon so much if I were to play, because I'm one of those people who will like run through and just like kill people with short distance weapons, like with pistols, and just run up behind you and just snuff you. You're gone. Then I'll snipe you. Then I'll camp, and then I'll be aggressive again.
You should bully Fab so much that he just stops playing altogether.
Y'all gotta play the game to understand. When you play,
yeah, right. That's
play one time with me, just one time.
One time.
I played Fortnite. That's why I was able to talk shit about it. I played because of the students that are in 10th grade now. I played like 5 games. I went on. I was like, okay, let me play this. I've been talking all this trash about it. Let me see how it is. After playing it, I'm like, it was kind of like watching Twilight. Like, why am I doing this to myself? I love myself.
Twilight was terrible.
I watched Twilight after a bad breakup while I was really depressed. I watched the entire series in one weekend.
It spoke to you.
I think I ate like maybe 3 or 4 packages of Oreo cookies and drank a whole bunch of crack and rum.
Well, the prequel's coming out.
The
prequel's coming
he's
out.
trying to kill himself.
Just add that on. Might as well. You could complete your series. Come on.
No. Why? Why is there a Twilight prequel? That's evil.
Fine.
But it's probably because all these millennials are grown up now and sheltered in, so now they're a captive audience and they'll watch it. Like, watch, they're gonna release another Harry Potter.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, man.
nostalgia
They
is
don't
the
know about all
fucking bro. Nostalgia is currency nowadays. If you could tap into that fucking nostalgia, yeah, that's free money.
But it's also, I feel like it's just about remixing it for the next generation. It doesn't feel like a long time for us, but
Yeah,
it is a long time for recycling. Well, think about like it's in this because like a lot of stories that at least like I'm thinking specifically of Marvel and DC. Those are the two companies that I'm thinking of because of how they've recycled their characters and they've been able to pretty much redo their characters year over years just to make them modern and to make it fit into what people are watching it now. And it's just that touch of nostalgia from parents really does a number in bringing in and having the older generation just bring in the younger generation. So I feel like they're going to do the prequels and it's going to be like people are going to watch it. But the fans of the original ones, they're going to be the ones that are going to definitely introduce their kids into the new one.
Did you all Did you all watch and rewatch movies when you were younger during COVID?
I've been rewatching TV shows.
Hold up.
And they were terrible.
Avatar.
Why? Why do you think that was the case?
Because I wanted to feel young again.
What is happening right now?
I don't know.
LeVon has regressed.
I watched the game over again. I don't know why. I watched Avatar over again. I don't know why. Well, no, Avatar.
I watched Prison Song again. I've been watching Moesha, Living Single.
I watched Moesha.
I watched Gargoyles, Justice League.
Jose. Why are we watching that shit?
Well, what do you think, Pro? Why are we watching?
Well, last time you were probably inside this consistently for this long a period of time. You were a kid. So you're actually regressing because you're indoors for long periods of time with nothing else the fuck to do because you can't go outside. It's like being a kid in New York in the winter.
Again.
Oh shit!
So that's the dark side of neuroplasticity that he's talking about. I'm gonna go with the light side. It's because you're also transported to a time when life was simpler. So it brings you back these memories of this timestamp of when you actually saw it for the first time.
You agree? That's fucking great. You're fucking my mind up, dude. Like,
Yeah.
why did you start this? Start the podcast with this.
Of course I went straight to the darkness.
You
Yeah,
always. That's all right. This is why I
You're
need you
fucking
here.
wild.
Balance us out.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting watching something a second time. Like I did that with Avatar, and I actually saw Avatar for the first time as an adult, but like rewatching it, I realized A, I actually didn't see the whole series, and B, it's
amazing.
It's like, well, it is really good, but it's seeing how I perceive the story now versus how I did then, or at least how I remember doing it then, is interesting. Like I actually did that a lot in college. Like I live with DK.
We did it together, boy. Don't leave me out. I was there.
We rewatched X-Men, like X-Men the animated show, or at least a season of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really interesting. Like even watching that, I'm like, holy shit! Like 70% of this shit went way over my head because it was packaged as a kid show, but it's like not really. Like a kid isn't going to get all the concepts because they go into things like racism, ableism, things like that, but they don't do it in a ham-fisted way. They don't beat you over the head with it, but as an adult you can see it. So it's just interesting, seeing that contrast.
One of the things that I noticed is like I've been rewatching Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and there's a lot of little like perverted jokes in there. The Flash is definitely a creep. And just rewatching, so like I rewatched Gargoyles, and I haven't finished it because it's like it is definitely a lot simpler than I remembered it. Like these stories, man, me rewatching it, I'm like, I don't remember anything, but then I start remembering as I'm watching it. And then I'm watching them, and then I'm like, okay, the stories are a lot simpler than I remembered them, but they're still good for the most part. Some of the sitcoms or the shows like Living Single, like that shit, man, you can see they're good, but no, man, they end really bad, bro. Like it's a drag to finish some of those.
Yeah, bro.
It's a fucking drag. But watching Moesha over again, because my girlfriend's been watching it like crazy, and she just catches me up on some of the stuff, and I freaking forgot so much fucking shit about that show, man. And even just like the whole thing with the Black Pandering and Netflix releasing all the black shows and shit like that, like. I'm like, I forgot about all of these shows, and I'm like, shit, man, I watched Mad TV fucking growing up. But I do look forward to watching some of them because I want to see older now. Those are something that like I would let my kids watch. I mean, I don't have kids, but me thinking about that because I'm watching them older now. And I used to watch a lot of these shows unsupervised, like, even the night shows, but the badder ones too, my parents never like watched over the type of stuff or police what we watch too. So I'm watching a lot of these shows to see it. Like I've noticed in a lot of the older TV shows that they do have guns. Gargoyles actually addresses gun violence very, 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 very early on, where one of the gargoyles accidentally shoots the cop, Elisa. And even though, Gargoyles is a pretty dope show because the majority of people in that show are people of color. And that's actually something that I didn't notice it till now. Maybe I'm just noticing it more because, Black Lives Matter and all the other stuff around. Or maybe just because I care about it more. But that show's a little bit more woke than I thought it was going to be. Than I remember it being.
Watching TV from the 80s, or watching movies from the 80s, especially like early 80s, so much shit doesn't hold up. Like one of my homeboys like hit me up like, yo, I watched 16 Candles. I forgot this shit is so rapey.
Yo, I gotta talk about that. I gotta talk about two things because y'all brought it to my attention.
Mommy's Alive.
Mommy's Alive is fire. I watched Back to the Future. What's his name? Butch? What's the guy's name? Buford or whatever. Mad rapey. The guy that the main antagonist. Mad rapey. Like he went in the car, opened the door, started pulling her clothes. Like it was just okay. And I was like, nah, this is crazy. But I was watching My POI is focused on a bug's life. Not a bug's life, but it's focused on the anatomy of bugs. So head, abdomen, thorax, and all that shit. And A Bug's Life has a gender fluid character. The ladybug is gender fluid, and I didn't realize that as a child. So now I'm watching it again with the kids, and the ladybug is a guy. So they call him a ladybug, but he's a guy. So like everybody's like coming at him, and they're like, "Yo, how you doing? How you doing, girl?" Like trying to hit on him, and he's like, when he speaks, he's like, "Yo, what are you talking about? I'm a guy," and it's like it threw me completely off because I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know that they were tackling gender fluidity at such a early point in the whole scheme of things." And then I was playing Disney music just for my students, and I had played
Really, just for your students?
mostly
Really?
for me. Well, for me and the students.
No, you're right when you said mostly for you.
Yeah, mostly for me. So I ended up playing from Mulan. It's a part where he's training the men, and it's "I'll Make a Man Out of You." The song "I'll Make a Man Out of You." And the kid, one of my girls were like, "Yo, why he got to make a man? Why is it specific to men?" And I was like, "Oh my God, Disney was very specific when it came to."
Well, but that was also the culture that they were trying to portray, right? For that time.
For that movie, yeah.
But see, this is why we keep talking about learning being emotional. You go back, what just happened when you're talking about 80s movies?
We got excited.
Oh,
Yeah.
brings you back to that time. So what do you want to do when you're trapped, right? You want to feel good. You want to go back.
Damn.
Or you just want to feel trapped all over again.
So did the people
my fault. It's funny that you're bringing that up because I'm thinking about the winter, and I'm just thinking about all the foods that my mom used to cook for us, and like the stews and stuff like that. And I'm like, yo, I can't wait till like I feel like I have my Saturday morning cartoons type shit because I already downloaded a lot of Saturday morning cartoons, so I just can't wait to set up, post up in my sweats, my jammies, and just fucking feel like a little kid Saturday morning.
Bro,
I'm rewatching Transformers the movie. So I'm telling you that's going to be my sheltering in the winter. I'm rewatching Transformers the movie. Absolutely happening.
The OG one? Oh man, rest in peace, Ultra Magnus and Optimus Prime and all of them. Sorry.
No.
Spoiler alert.
Oh,
they all die.
Yeah. Yo, speaking of Transformers, there's this new Transformers on Netflix that.
Oh, look at that. That was a unison.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay. The reason I thought it was bad. Oh, are we talking about the same one? The War on Cybertron?
Yes.
Okay.
So
the reason
terrible.
The reason that I didn't like it, well, I liked it, but the worst thing about it was Optimus Prime. That's because like they didn't give him any depth. He was just like this guy who was just like I shouldn't be sympathizing with Megatron. Like, you know what I'm saying? They gave him no depth. And it's like Megatron, like even how they did the animation, like I remember when he was torturing like Ultra Magnus, whatever, spoiler alert, like you could see it on his face. Is like, damn, like shit really came to this. I'm like in what world are you rooting for Megatron to like redeem himself? I don't know. It was just weird. They just gave Optimus Prime no depth, and I don't know. It would have been so much better if they did.
D, what are some other COVID symptoms that are awry? We got brain soup. We got wanting to be a kid again. What are some other?
That's not a symptom. That's just a manifestation. Come on now. It's not always a bad thing.
What are some other?
Stu, though, we know it.
Do we really want to discuss the symptoms?
We can.
What, The Simpsons? Like the show?
No. Like lack of empathy.
Oh.
Irritability.
For sure. You're always
definitely eye condition.
Right.
I'm not going to say other things that you're going to have to cut, but yeah.
Oh, are you? Yeah,
Now
he's tipsy already.
Random purchases of equipment.
Yep.
What kind of equipment?
I bought a piano.
Yeah, he did. He made the announcement.
I told you that. Why
Yeah.
y'all talk? I bought a piano.
A real piano?
I can play the piano now, bro.
Like the shits
And-
on TV, like the
like
shits
a
white
grand
people
piano?
have?
Oh, no, the fucking keyboard that.
Oh, the one that lights up so you can hit the buttons?
Oh, yep.
You said you got a speaker style piano. Ooh.
Oh,
You mean you got a
dear.
keyboard? You mean you got a keyboard?
He
No,
called
mini
me 3.
Casios, the one that
He called me
does the
3
thing.
years old, bro.
He has a light up piano. He plays Fortnite. Holy shit, you're regressing super hard.
And don't you live in the basement too, on top of everything?
No.
Is your mom making you
Oh,
breakfast?
no!
Oh!
Yo, no, we gotta edit that out. We gotta edit that out. Oh no!
Well, that's his words, but sure.
Oh my god!
Dungeon.
Oh my god!
Wait, so what songs do you know how to? What songs does the machine have already in it? That,
Baby Shark. That's what he plays every time.
Nah, Baby Shark is super easy. After I learned it, I was like, nah, this is ridiculously easy.
Play it right now.
I got no.
Artist corner.
Yes, tonight we were going to have the serenading sounds of Loso playing
Baby Shark.
Baby Shark.
Yeah.
Nah, that's funny. BK.
I have been wanting to pick up an instrument though, but like right now I'm just so focused on other things. Like my main thing is me focusing on my like tech skills right now, which I always am. But this is always something new. I mean, producing the show, I think we've upped some of the post production stuff. I do want to learn an instrument, but like given what I've been doing right now with my time, I don't think I'd want to prioritize it over the other things I kind of want to do first. Because I've been exploring the idea of maybe studying of writing a kid's book or something like that. So I've been looking into that little by little. I think the book stuff is the main thing. I'm hoping I could get out of the hyperbolic COVID chamber, having actually done, because I feel like that's definitely something I could do. And something I've always wanted to do. So that's kind of like one of my goals. So hopefully season whatever next 1 year, and next year when we're recording the next one of these episodes, I'll be able to sell my shit.
Yeah, you're talking about like hobbies and return to things. I'm actually like making a strong consideration of returning to journalism and doing some writing. And there's a particular beat that I'm interested in, but I know I cannot work in education to like if I start writing those particular articles like at all. It's a conflict of interest.
You'll be a hypocrite.
Nah, it's just it'll be frowned upon, so I'm not doing it. Not yet, but like there's definitely like interest, and I'm doing a lot of research because there's some real dope movements that are happening in terms of the way that Black and brown sex workers are like organizing against the companies they work for to like fight for equity. And I'm really interested in like the telling of those stories. So I've been paying attention to like a lot of content, a lot of content. But also one of those ethical things of like I'm sheltering and I'm stuck. And if I want to subscribe to your OnlyFans, what are your political sensibilities at this moment in time? If I find out you're a Trump supporter, like I'm gone, you're deleted. Or like when the protest kicks off. And it's interesting to see the ways in which like just to observe what industries have been having like these moments of like, okay, we've been putting up with these particular systems of repression long enough, but at this particular moment of like quarantine, of sheltering in, of like money decreasing overall, and then like this epidemic returning, or not really returning, but returning to like the forefront of like news popularity of Black and brown folk being killed by the police, there's like a radicalization that's happening as well. In a number of ways that it's real positive, like on the light side of things, that people are feeling a desire and a need to be more engaged, and they have the time to be more engaged, which is dope to see. Like there's a huge thing happening in the publishing industry with a lot of huge foundations that writers are no longer working with because they're realizing that they're racist. And like the practices have happened during this period of time. And a lot of this stuff is getting covered in some news media, but other parts of news media, it's not. And I'm thinking about like, well, how can I lend my voice to those particular conversations? So it's kind of cool to see a lot of the stuff that's happening. And I think part of my regression is just returning to a lot of the things I was interested in like late teens, early 20s, which is like activism, tech, and porn in no particular order. Like that's
same. and piano. D, what's something you picked up on that you weren't? Well, yeah.
What? Complete sentence.
What's what?
Soup brain. Let me ask
What?
the question.
He's mumble
LeVon.
rapping.
D, what are some
Go ahead,
things
bro.
that you've returned to during the quarantine?
What did I return to it? Well, I haven't gotten back to full-time writing like you, Pro. But I have been, I think if anything else, it's more the traveling locally. I like to explore on land places I've never been, which is why I killed my car during the time of Rona. Yeah, I have no more
Rest in
vehicle.
peace.
But that's what I do is I pick up a map, I look at a map, and I point it to where I'm like, this looks interesting. I look at the place where locals go, and then I just go. Like one thing, for example, we're talking about getting in touch with nature. I always go every year, every summer, to be with my fellow dolphins because I like the sea so much. I'm a sea creature. Typically, they're so difficult to spot because there's just way too many people and they like to be by themselves. Well, there was no one in the oceans for 3 months? This time around, mid-July, you could see maybe 20, 25 of them close to the shore in Wildwood, New Jersey. Like playing with people because there was just way too many fish, which is why there were also many sharks. But it was nice. Just like, oh, all right. This is what happens when people stop interfering with Mother Nature. So yeah, it's just me being a weekend warrior that way. Just going.
Moral of the story is go to nature. Go to nature.
Avoid brain stew.
Avoid brain stew. Don't bring your iPad to nature with you. Just go.
No
Don't go there
Fortnite
with a
in the
hotspot and
woods.
log into a meeting. Don't go play Fortnite under a tree. Like that's not the way that works.
Has anyone been reading anything interesting? Me, I've actually been reading nothing.
One thing that I've been reading is a book called Why We Sleep, which is really interesting because it's just a book about why we sleep, the mechanisms behind sleep, things in that nature. Is really interesting because we kind of know the effects of sleep, but we still don't know quite why we sleep. In the sense that like why we have to do it. Like we pretty much know what it does, but we don't know why we need it. It's interesting. Oh
That's
yeah, it's a book that I You said what?
That's when we connect to the Matrix.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a book that I would recommend people read just because
Well, you're all reading serious stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I'm reading a whole bunch of poetry and nonfiction. Julian Randall's Refuse, which won the Cave Canem Poetry Prize. He's one of my favorite poets who doesn't eat vegetables in real life, and I control him for it. And the Breakbeat Poets, that's the next anthology. And aside from that, I'm trying to find some new comic books to read.
Well, I pale in comparison. I am currently reading on and off The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which I recommend because the premise is we spend our lives giving fucks to the things we can give a fuck over. So it's a good reminder.
I embody the philosophy or whatever that book states. That's my lifestyle. I've been reading Children of Virtue and Vengeance, which is a sequel to Children of
Blood and Bone.
Blood and Bone.
Yeah, Virtue. That series told me I'm waiting for book 3 to drop.
Fire.
I'm so mad it's not out yet because it's so good. I read Children of Blood and Bone in one day. I didn't do anything.
It's so good, bro, and it's like it hits so many things that are happening now. It's really good. Yeah, it's really good.
I don't have the book on me. I guess I'll try to grab it. I guess just plugging in the.
You about to plug him?
I'm about to plug them in, yo. Give me a sec.
Plug him. But Ed boy, why do we sleep?
Well, if you were listening, I just explained we don't quite know why. We know we know why in the sense we know what it does for us, right? We know what it does for us and that we need to survive, but like why humans, mammals, creatures need to sleep. People don't know exactly why. And it's pretty interesting. And it also gives tips as to, it talks about things like circadian rhythms and, why we don't get enough sleep, how to get more sleep, things of that nature. It's a really good book. It's dense, but it's not like it's written for like laymen, so it's like an easy read. It's not like it's not too jargony or anything like that.
That is the definition of Edwin's easy read.
Right.
Good to know.
Fuck, I want to read that shit.
I'm telling you, my easy read is so way below.
I think prior to that, prior to the book I'm reading now, D was the book we were reading for advanced, which focused on you were sending the excerpts out to us, but it was focused
tools,
on,
you mean?
Yeah.
No, that was for everyone. That was for grade teams. That was for the whole school. We
that
had to
was
give
for grade teams. Yes.
Yes, it was for everyone, and I think it was successful, right? I mean, for as long as it was more than one person, then we were okay.
I mean, listen, we have Gabe walking around quoting it. Like, we have so many people who are quoting the book and who really rock with it. Some of the people that could, use a bit more active love in their hearts and not, but most people are really rocking with it. And I think that the book was a dope read, especially if you were reading anything else that is aligned to like mindfulness spiritual practice. So like it has these natural intersections. So I was reading like 3 other books at the same time. I'm like, oh, they're all talking about the same thing to me.
So this is actually the newest book that I kind of skimmed through, reading little by little. We actually had them on the show last week to talk about how they created this book, but this is a pretty dope book because it's actually a children's book that talks about financial literacy. Spoiler alert, right? It's really about them getting to the trip and trying to figure out a way to raise money to buy their own dresses to go to this wedding. So I thought it was pretty dope. Skimmed through it the first time. Want to take a little deeper look at that, but just wanted to plug it in for them and let y'all know about this book.
That definitely should be on a reading list in school for like middle school or something like that. Is definitely a great book, and it's also published not only in the United States, but it's also published in Nigeria as well. But we're actually going to have them on a future episode. So
outside of that, speaking of kids' books, that's also what I've been consistently reading. I don't even consider it a light read because I gotta read it to then introduce it to my students. I read this book called The Anti-Racist Baby, which is very interesting because it spoke about racism from the perspective of somebody attempting to be a baby and also trying to showcase awareness of racism in general and speaking to it and speaking about it. So when I showed that to my students was like, my students are so secluded in this little world of them that they haven't really, they see racism from afar. They haven't seen racism up close such as of yet. So the Anti-Racist Baby, they were seeing themes in there that they haven't really come across yet. So it was just very interesting.
Yeah, because your students, do they see color? Have they ever really seen color? What do they see when they look at people?
Either somebody that can teach me or peer.
Yeah, simple enough, right?
Yeah, this is very.
Did anybody actually have a school that actually had a conversation about like the nuances of like race and racism? I'll say no on my end. I'm just curious because I feel like this is definitely And I guess it's important. I feel like people only care about it now because of Black Lives Matter. And I mean, better late than never. But I don't even know how I would have that conversation because they're so, I don't know, man. I just think about that like a lot. You know, if I was still a teacher, how would I be able to have that conversation with my students?
For me, like I had that conversation at age 4. So like that conversation was had with me when I was 4. So I have no illusions about young children being able to participate in those conversations. It was to introduce in a way that's age appropriate and scaffolded for them.
Did your parents do that for you?
They had to, because I live in like a family where I had 2 grandparents, one on each side of the family that was super light, that people sometimes mistake for white, and another grandparent who was like brown or dark. And I remember my cousins were running around teasing me, saying that I was white and I was younger than them, so I didn't really know what it meant. Went crying to my mom, said it felt like they were saying that I was something different than them, because I looked up to them and they were being a little fucked up. And we had to have that conversation at age 4 about like what race is and what people are. Like, and I was explaining the 1 drop rule at that age. Like, I had to learn about the construction of racial identity during that period of time. I grew up watching Eyes on the Fries and like learning about Black history, like from the moment I was in kindergarten. The schools didn't do it for me, but there are places that do, right? Like, especially if you talk to like Sister Ayo and Brother Kwajo, the school that Ayo used to work at introduces that very early. The preschool that my godchildren went to, which is like closed for a year, called Little Maroon. They're in preschool. They're learning about race, racism, freedom fighters. They're learning about Assata Shakur and Harriet Tubman, learning it through the lens of like being proud of who they are and being able to recognize the differences amongst human beings as just different things that make people special. And those differences are cool to investigate, right? But also to be able to know how to stand up for themselves very early as well, and to be very clear about what it means to be able to stand up for justice and what justice is. And like in preschool, they're starting to interrogate those ideas of like, are you going to be somebody who's going to bully other people, or are you going to be somebody who's going to stand up for what you believe in? And it's not always presented in a way that's that dichotomous, but it gives them the opportunity through questioning and through telling stories, through really, really fun plays to navigate it. I think the best story that I saw that dealt with prejudice and a play the kids had to do was some play about like discrimination amongst crayons. Like with the crayons, I think it's called something like The Crayons Speak. And it was really cool. And they're there, and like you realize as an adult, kind of like what you were saying about gargoyles earlier, there's all this subtext that when you're a kid, you may not fully get, but it has to do with like being accepted and being othered. And there are different cliques of crayons that treat each other differently. It was like really well written. I think there's a way to do it. I just think that this system doesn't care to.
Like when educating in the Philippines, we
What? I'm sorry. Why did Fab look up like that? Like he just looked like he got caught doing something.
Yeah, we all know what. Yo,
being educated in the Philippines, we often would wonder why it was so difficult for people to get along over here. We could not compute. They would tell us about racism. That was part of our curriculum. But remind you, we're practically the same color. I mean, give or take a few shades up or a few shades down. And we're like, but they're people. Like, why is this so difficult? And until you come over and you see, okay, it's difficult because things are being made difficult for them. This is a mindset thing. This was something that was put into systems because of a mindset way before them. And it just kept perpetuating. So, yeah, we had that ingrained in our educational system. Oh, well, then, as I am now not a millennial, I'm way before that. This time around, I'm not sure what they teach them.
you're not way before. You're Generation Next. Don't give me this way before shit.
I'm older
We know
than
somebody else is. Yes, but no, but you're still Generation
Okay,
X.
boomer.
Nah, not a boomer. Not a boomer.
You never
Generation
know.
X starts in like 68. So, nah. Mm-mm.
So to put it to a calm, nice, we went all over the place tonight. This is great. This is amazing. to put it to a calm close, do you have anything like any last words, any Morpheus like thoughts, or any prolific thoughts? Because I know y'all both end the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, y'all both end the podcast with heat, and I can't match the flame.
My
Who's going
prolific
first?
words are
Who's going first?
Fortnite sucks. Fortnite sucks.
Oh,
Fortnite sucks.
oh my God! This episode is just a Fortnite commercial.
Is
We
brain
need Epic to fucking swing us some cash ASAP.
That's it, bro. Really? Come on. You got some stuff. Come on.
Listen, like, come on. I've been suppressing some of my inner ratchet the entire show because I knew I wanted to be smart because I'm here with, my good friend D. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to be smart because I've been studying the brain stuff. I'm a brain guy now. I got people emailing me like, what's the name of that pedagogy again? I'm like, let me email you the person that, can come in that you can pay to talk about it. And hopefully I'll be allowed to tag along with them. But I think all the random stuff that we've been dealing with, I think, is parallel to all the randomness that we've been experiencing during this period of time. And I think that this is kind of like if you're catching up with friends, if you're catching up with family members, these conversations go all over the place because our emotions are all over the place. Our thoughts are all over the place, and so are our interests, because we're just trying to find things to remind us that we're human, that our lives matter, that our lives are filled with meaning and with purpose. And a lot of us are like really over the bullshit of doing things that we know are not aligned to why we're here. Because we're reminded of like how tragically short that life is. My really good friend who passed away last month had made this short film, and she had a stage 4 cancer for like 3 years, was 37, teacher, dancer, one of the best dancers I've ever seen. And the film that she has called The Road to Osetura, like a 3-minute film, like deeply immersed in her spiritual practice and a prayer for like her own healing and rejuvenation. And the subtitle of it is a prayer is not a prayer unless it's said out loud. And I'm thinking a lot about the ways in which we're speaking the affirmations and prayers of the life that we wish to live, which are filled with like joy, with meaning, and with connection. And I think this is a time better than any to just give birth to those ideas into the lives that we want, rather than continue to succumb to this capitalist system or this hamster wheel of bullshit that happens on all of these screens that are just there begging for our attention, when they're the attention of those that we care for more, that are much closer to us. And I think the opportunities for those connections can outweigh any game made for people who watched a purple dinosaur as a child.
And that's the artist corner, prolific.
Well, how do I follow that? So, I think for me, Chadwick Boseman's passing just reminded me how vulnerable people are on the regular in the time of this hyperbolic chamber or not, like just people, and how you used to or choose to utilize, waste, squander your humanity is up to you. Because in a short span of time, in 43 years, the body of work that this man has been able to accomplish, which we know really started in 2013 to 2020. It's not a long time, has catapulted him into immortality. So how you choose to squander, use, share, abuse your humanity matters. And that's all I got. Can't follow that. That was heavy right there.
Nah, you did. And that's connected. Rest in peace, Chad.
And that's the base.